Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Dustin and Laura Gransberry, and we're here with Open Your Practice, the business of therapy made simple. We're here with a video today to talk to you a little about the origin story of Open Your Practice, how it came to be, and give you this core central message. Like, you don't need to struggle anymore. You don't. And there's a considerable amount of struggle when it comes to private practice. What do I do? How does that work? Like all the frustrations and challenges, and I'll tell you, we have both been there.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I always wanted to go into private practice. It's something that I had been dreaming about since I was 13. You know, I sat with my parents and wanted to be a therapist, and I envisioned that happening in private practice. You know, I'd gone to some therapy as a youngster and so I knew what that side of it looked like, the private practice side, and that was the goal. That's what I wanted to do. So I knew from a very young age that that's the direction, and there were some challenges along the way, you know, getting your degree, you know, undergrad, and then going to grad school. There was a lot of hurdles that I faced. You know, psychology being an impacted major at basically any undergrad university at this point, trying to get classes that made sense for what I was trying to do.
When you were in junior high or high school, were you the person that people came to with their problems?
Always. I was just always the one that would listen, and people would come to me and ask me questions about what they should do, seek advice,
like
and
this guy didn't return my text message. Or he sent me this inappropriate picture.
Yeah, so I'm aging myself here, but that wasn't a thing back in high school because our phones didn't do that back then.
Yeah, we
So
had Snake.
A whole new realm of crazy that is happening on phones these days. But yeah, thank goodness we didn't have. It was more just like, you know, what normal teenagers struggle with, and
Yeah.
or I guess, you know.
I mean, I was the same.
Yeah.
We didn't go to the same high school.
No.
Thankfully.
Not even in the same state.
But I was that person too, right? You know, sitting in the hallway, listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Just being an ear. I was always an ear for everybody, and so it just kind of came naturally to me, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and so I, you know, faced some challenges getting to grad school and graduating grad school, but it wasn't until the path was always clear up until that point. It was this, you know, you graduate high school and then you go to college and then you major in psychology and then you get into a grad school and you do your training. The pavers on the path were always the markers were always very clear. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until after graduate school, when it became time to pursue the private practice piece, that everything became muddy and cloudy and unclear and frustrating. And
what was frustrating about that?
Everything. There was
like when I met you, I was like, wow, like, I have no idea why you're so frustrated about this.
Because there wasn't a path. That, you know, I had been following the markers all the way up until then, and it wasn't the same thing. Once you were wanting to pursue private practice, the questions that I would ask people, clinicians that had built successful private practices, their answers were still really muddy and cloudy, and I don't know, and it depends, and try this thing over here, and
you could do this or this thing, which is the opposite of that. That's what you could do.
Conflicting answers. That was another frustrating part of it. I was doing research online about how to open this and do this, and it just piecemeal together. And
I mean, what you want to do is watch 500 5-minute YouTube videos. Try and figure out where they go together.
I was drowning. It was so inefficient and time consuming. And you asked what those pain points were. That was it. That was the frustrating pieces there. And every time it seemed like every time I turned around, I hit a wall. Every time I wanted to pursue it, every time I even actually did start the process, and it never got off the ground. It failed, and because I didn't.
Why was that?
A lot of different things. big pieces there were I didn't really know anything about marketing. I didn't know what I should be doing to market myself in this industry that is mostly word of mouth. And
how many marketing books have you read?
0.
How many marketing classes did you take?
0.
Okay. What about accounting?
0. This is not something that they prepare you for in school, which is so frustrating to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but it's also like, we want to communicate, right? Like, don't feel bad about that.
Right.
Most therapists, social workers, counselors, coaches that we talk to, they're like, oh, I'm like, and you should feel bad about this. Why?
Right.
Like, you didn't have the information. Plus, like, there's so much information out there. How do you know where to even start, right? We're talking about trying to piece that together.
Yeah.
That is really challenging.
Yeah.
You basically need a guide to take you through it.
True. And there was no front-to-back solution. It wasn't like, I never had a checklist or a blueprint or a guide, a course guide that said, like, start here, then do these things in this order, so you'll end up here. That didn't exist, and so I was very frustrated. No.
All right, so you actually tried to launch your practice before, and it didn't go so well.
Yeah, it actually didn't get off the ground.
Oh. What happened there?
Yeah, well, there was a few things that were crucial to that. I didn't know a ton about marketing, and we were on our way out. The economy was on our way out of a recession, but still very much present. And so I was an LMFTA at the time, and I couldn't take insurance, which I'm not going to hang everything on that, but it was a big factor. But the biggest part was that I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't have a guide. You know, I keep coming back to that, but it's so true. I didn't know how to market in this mainly word of mouth, seemingly mainly word of mouth profession.
Right.
I had read 0 marketing books. You know, we talked 0 about it in school.
How about accounting?
No, 0 accounting. Okay. Like, just nothing. We don't know anything, and so
well, you know tons of stuff.
I know stuff now.
Yeah, but there's 2 sides to the equation. Yeah. Right. So when you and I first met, I was like, well, what do you mean you're not in private practice? Because I'd been studying business pretty much my whole life. Right? Sales, entrepreneurship, business. It just had been an interest of mine. And so had, therapy and coaching. That's eventually what led me to opening my coaching practice. Mm-hmm. But I got, just from a lifetime of exposure, I got the business side right away. Yeah. And it was a little bit of a shock to me that you didn't get it. But it totally makes sense. I mean, it totally makes sense, right? Why do businesses fail? Lack of money, lack of knowledge. You have no money and no knowledge, and then it's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah. Yeah, but like, why should anybody feel bad about that?
You shouldn't.
Right?
Yeah, there's no, and I think that was a big hurdle for me too. I felt like I was the only one that didn't know, you know, that there was something wrong. Like I should know these things, but it's really not.
But now that we've met thousands of therapists, you were the only one who didn't know.
No, that's not true. Not at all. Yeah.
So, I mean, with these 2 sides of the equation, right? You have to have the therapy side, and you have to have the business side, and they have to come together. And what happens is you're on this linear track, like, I know what to do, and I know what's next, and I'm doing undergrad, and then I'm doing grad school, and then
all of a sudden, there
you
is
get to
no
the edge
more path.
of the cliff at the Grand Canyon, and you're looking at the other side, be like, private practice is over there. And what do you do?
You try to figure it out.
You
try. You know, what I did is I just piecemealed this together and tried to do the best that I could, and it took a long time. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of money. You know, you'll learn that time is money in this process, and if you're wasting time, then you're delaying making money, and that was probably the biggest pressure that I felt. Like, every week that went by and month that went by that I was trying to, again, piecemeal this together was just really frustrating, because I knew I could have been, this could have been more efficient. It's not.
Totally, it could have been more efficient, but the thing is, I remember sitting down with you, and you said, my dream is private practice. I'm like, all right, well, let's go, right? Yeah. And you're like, no.
Yeah, I was like, because you have this, like, incredible bias to action. So I find myself censoring sometimes, like, there's times where I'm like, oh, I want to do that thing, but I can't say it out loud, because if I say it out loud, he's going to make me do it. And that's not, like, I'm just like, no, I'm not ready yet, so I can't say it out loud. Like, I can't say I want to.
It becomes a thing.
Yeah, I can't say I want to speak at this event, because then he'll be like, okay, well, let's go do it. And I'm like, wait, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of that.
So you want a private practice, but you had basically like touched a hot stove, found out that it was hot, had some experience with failure to launch in the first go round, and you'd found yourself working in an agency or agencies for years. And by the time that I met you, you're like, yeah, like I know that I want to do that, and it's like it's a thing. It's like it's out there, you know. It's like the other side of the Grand Canyon. And so I looked at you and I was like, well, let's figure this thing out. But there had to be a tipping point for you, right? Like why go and launch and do all this stuff? Yeah. Like for everybody, that like you might know private practice is for you, but what's going to make you pull the trigger and say like it's go time?
For me, I was working at a residential treatment facility that just required a massive amount of emotional investment, and it was a very, very hard work. Anybody that's worked at an inpatient level facility knows that that's very demanding, and I was going on year 7 of it, and it just like, so my tipping point really came from my desire to go into private practice intersecting with that just level of exhaustion. And I woke up one morning and I looked at you and I was like, I have to get out of here. And so we jumped on a ferry boat and we went over to Bainbridge for breakfast. And we sat there for 2 hours at breakfast and just talked about what it would be like to go in Monday and quit my job and do something different. So it was really, I just finally hit that apex of let's go. Yeah. My desire then outweighed the fear of the what if.
Right. Yeah. So do you feel like everybody has to get there?
There will likely be I'm such a big believer in tipping points. I talk about them all the time. So it's sort of how I orient my view. And I think a lot of people will hit a tipping point, and look for that. You know, there's a time where you'll finally just say like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, let's go. Yeah. You know, let's jump in, let's dive in, let's get it going, you know, and whatever your why is, whatever your reason is for that will be different. You know, everyone is different. Yeah. But I think it does come down to a tipping point for a lot of people. So
if the road to private practice is like you're here and you're trying to get to this other destination, and you make a decision to go, like getting in the car, it's packed, ready to go. Yeah. Would it be better to have a map? Like,
yeah. And that was the thing, is that you had you had done this already, so you had enough of a roadmap to at least point me in the right direction. Yeah. Like, go down this road, you know?
It's actually the only time that my GPS or like my navigation sense actually works.
Yeah. Building businesses is your strong suit.
Yeah,
so,
but when we're driving in the car, you're like...
Oh, yeah, no. He has no set. It's ridiculous. So, this very quick funny story. We were just starting out dating. I think it was even like, maybe our like 3rd or 4th year. Like, something super early on. And we're going to this restaurant. I can't even remember which restaurant it was. And we get in the car and we start driving. And because it's so new, I'm still very like, I don't know if I want to. So we're going in the opposite direction of the restaurant. Like, like you turn on the street and we're now driving away from the restaurant. And I look over.
How's anybody supposed to know?
But I look over at him and I was like, where are we going? And you, because I was like still trying to, I didn't really know you very well, and you were like, oh, we're going to the restaurant, and I was like, yeah, it's that way.
I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I was rocking out to Justin Bieber.
It's true. Yeah, anyway, just terrible sense of direction, like on a map, but in terms of business building, he's got it.
Right, so it'd be better to have a map, right?
It would be better, but yes.
It would be better to have a map. But most of the time, you just make a decision. You're like, all right, I'm going to go for it. And basically, like, even with a lot of my help, you just set out and hit, like, pothole and roadblocks. Yeah. And, like, what were some of the mistakes that happened early for you?
Yeah, on this journey, gosh, everything from thinking I was putting my office in the right place to finding out later it was not ideal.
It was next to Facebook. It's got to be a good idea.
Yeah, it was in the middle of the downtown core next to everybody. That's got to be great. Yeah, it really wasn't. There was that piece, a lot of struggle with insurance, the paneling process, them losing paperwork, not knowing that there was this common application process that would have made it so much easier. What else? I mean, the list is long.
Did you always get paid on time?
No, that was the other thing too, is that there's, getting paid from insurance and having to chase down money from insurance, and it just...
What about getting the right clients?
Yeah, that was hard too.
Or the build time?
Yeah, getting the right clients, I learned... The right clients is kind of funny, a funny way to say it, but
isn't it right for you?
Yeah, there's right for you. There's an element where I had to learn how to prioritize my niche and what I wanted to do and the types of clients that I wanted to serve and help. And in the beginning, there was kind of this I just want to build, I say yes to anybody. And,
sure.
And
I did that too.
Yeah.
I did that too.
And that was...
Yeah. And then I was like, I had to fire Bob.
Yeah.
I was like, Bob... I love you, right? You're a doctor, and I talked about this, and you're just not doing the work, man. Yeah. It's not gonna,
So building the practice that's right for you, that you will be proud of, and that is invigorating to go to every day, I think is really important, and that was a mistake I made in the beginning as well.
Yeah, but eventually you figured it out.
You did,
and we made a commitment that no one should ever have to struggle as hard as you struggled.
Yeah, that was
again?
Once we had it up and running. I think the big, again, tipping point that started this whole 3-year whirlwind process of building this part of our company was after I had it built and I was seeing clients and I was sort of out from under the what if no one comes to see me fear. I was paying my bills and making money.
Yeah.
It was working, right? We finally were at the point where I was like, man, what we're doing is working. So we got to that point, and then I started saying things like, it shouldn't have been that hard. It really shouldn't have taken that long. It really should, this is ridiculous. All of these people that just want to help people, and these roadblocks to getting into private practice the inefficiency is driving me bananas. Mm-hmm. So I want to fix it. And he, in true, I said it out loud, and then he was like, let's go. And so we started on this journey.
For those that are on the other side of the Grand Canyon, right? Whether you've made a decision or you haven't made a decision or you're trying to figure out this, I imagine you found this video because you're trying to figure it out. So, what are some of the benefits of private practice? Is it worth it?
Oh my goodness. So for me, because everyone's different, but for me, the freedom of schedule was so liberating. I am back to my hobbies. I love to bake, and I had no time or energy to bake, and it's something that's totally a self-care thing. I love baking cakes and cookies, and come the holidays, I do pumpkin breads and zucchini bread and all kinds of stuff for people. So I'm back to baking, and I'm back to watching movies on a Tuesday afternoon if I don't have clients, and doing practicing some self-care there. And we just had a son. Our son is 4 months old. So the freedom of schedule to be able to be here and take care of him, and know that going forward our family is going to be able to take time, and that's it's for me 100% the most valuable part of the process.
Do you like your boss?
Well, right now the boss is 4 months old and he's a little moody. But yes, in my private practice, my boss is great.
Yeah. What about if you want to raise?
I get to decide. I don't have to ask anybody just the amount of control that comes from this, and that you call the shots is.
What about if you want to take vacation or not work over the holidays?
Yeah. That's a big one, actually, that a lot of private practice clinicians talk about, because it's a double-edged sword, because you're making your own money, so you don't get PTO, vacation time. But there's some ways to solve for that. If you have a special savings account, there's a you can set it up essentially the same way that your job set it up for you, the way the companies do.
Wait, you're going to get into cash flow management?
Well, yeah.
It's almost like a mini accounting course.
I know, but I do want to address this.
There's resources.
There's
right?
resources, yeah. But you can put money aside in the same way that your job essentially put hours aside for you. So if you want to take 2 weeks of vacation a year, let's say you and your family take 2 weeks of vacation, you can put money aside so that you're not getting paid that week, and then you pull from that account when you take the vacation. There's just a lot of ways to solve for it.
Yeah, if you have a map.
If you have a map. Yeah.
If you have a map. And if not, it's crazy making.
Yeah.
It's totally crazy making. And I don't know. That seems like a very charged word. Maybe I shouldn't have said crazy making because of the profession.
Yeah. It's maddening, like kind of infuriating, overwhelming,
but it shouldn't have to be.
No.
It should not have to be. So we want you to know that there are resources available to you. We dedicated a huge chunk of our time and our lives to make this a problem that didn't need to be a problem for you anymore, right? We recognized that there were thousands of therapists that were in the baby boom generation planning to retire.
Yeah.
And what was going to happen, predictably, is when that took place and they all started to retire, they would close their private practices. Then there weren't enough young
there's going to be a gap
graduates,
essentially. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people in school, don't get me wrong, but there's going to be this gap in transit. We're really going through the first wave of transition. And there's
like right now.
Yeah. And the short story of that is that there's a need for this. There's a need in our field for private practice clinicians. I'm here in Seattle, and everyone I know, their practice is full. I'm full. People get calls all the time. I get calls all the time like, hey, do you have a referral? Do you have a referral? And the people on my referral list are full. So I'm having trouble referring people out because there's nowhere to send them.
So the time is right.
Yeah.
The time is right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it serves such a huge need, right? I mean, we strongly believe that through private practice, not only can you get better control over your life, you can control your income and your schedule, but you have the ability to offer better quality of care to the client population that you want to serve or would be best to serve in the way that you want to serve versus just plugging in and hoping that the agency that you work for is exactly perfect for you, which if it is, fantastic, stay there, do that. We're not trying to get you away from that. Yep. But if at all you're feeling like I could have this better, you absolutely can. You absolutely can. And we've built a roadmap for you to be able to do that. So that's maybe enough for today's video. Yeah. So there are resources that we've made available to you. We're super excited about them. So first thing we want to say is for more great content, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Follow us on social media. We've got all of the channels, or maybe some of the channels. We got the Pinterest, and we've got
Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, and here on YouTube.
Right. So basically all the good ones.
Yeah.
And we also have a website, right? So if you go to openyourpractice.com, hopefully that's easy to remember because what do you want to do? You want to open your practice? Go to openyourpractice.com, and we've got a blueprint for you to get the full checklist. Oh yeah. Hey, you're looking good on there. She's so beautiful. Okay, so we'll give you the blueprint for free. It's got the checklist. You just got to pay for shipping and handling to get it over to you, so we can process that order and get it to you.
Yeah.
But we want you to have all the information that you need in order to get going. If you want more information, we've got a master course. It gets into deep how-to stuff. And then we've got community, right? So the point of having all these social channels is that there's community. We want you to feel like you are not alone because literally you are not alone. Yeah. And it can feel so isolating, right? You get out of graduate school and you were with a bunch of people and now you're like, oh, I'm going to be in private practice and totally isolated and totally alone and I don't know what. There's so many other people that are going through this journey with you. And this is a way to connect with them. Yeah. So come with us.
Come hang out.
We'll show you how.
Yeah.